Why do we trim? To remove material the horse cannot remove on its own. We should not trim from the perspective that the foot will grow too much if we don't. The hoof is not grass, it is not hair, and it is not a fingernail. The hoof is a bionic shoe. It is created and maintained by the horse's foot. Here is the classic Mustang hoof held up as the standard. Notice that the frog is below the bars. The seat of corn is forward to mid-frog and above the sole, not at the base of the frog. A slight rim of wall runs around the edge of the sole, and the distance from the base of the frog to the heel purchase is consistent with what people call underrun heels. Here is what is currently called a quote-unquote natural trim. Heels have been brought back to the base of the frog. The bars have been trimmed down to the sole, and unevenly at that, and the heels have also been trimmed down to the sole. Here is a hoof that has just had the shoe removed. The heels have been brought back to the base of the frog, and the bars have been trimmed down to the sole. Because shoes must fit flat, there is no beveling, but otherwise this is exactly the same as the quote-unquote natural trim in the previous slide. This foot had a shoe to protect it from the over-trimming necessary to put on a shoe. The naturally trimmed foot must wear a boot to protect it from the over-trimming done out of ignorance. Here is a side-by-side comparison of the recently discharged foot and the naturally trimmed foot. What difference can be seen between these two trims? First of all, the discharged hoof at least had even trimming of the bars and the heels. It has no bevel, but other than that, I see no difference. Both feet have contracted frogs due to poor trimming. Both feet have a forward toe due to poor trimming. Visibly, there is no difference between the trim for shoes and the so-called natural trim being taught today. The sad truth is that what is being taught as a natural trim based on the Mustang model is just an out-and-out lie. It is nothing but a shoeing trim without the shoe with a bevel added. The side-by-side comparison of the discharged hoof, the so-called naturally trimmed hoof, and an actual Mustang hoof. Do either of the first two feet look anything like the Mustang hoof on the right? No. Could a shoe be put on that Mustang foot? No. Here is what the inside tells us. The area where the wall turns back and becomes the bar is not at the base of the frog, but midway up the frog, which means the heels should never be trimmed in an effort to take them back. The area indicated by the black arrow on the right is taller than the sole corium, which means we should not try to force the heels to sole level. And also, the seed of corn is clearly at mid-frog, and we should never try to trim through that to take the heels lower. Here is a hoof trimmed using the hoof-guided method and how it compares to the sole corium. The hoof, trimmed with the HGM, mirrors almost perfectly what the inside of the foot tells us, even to the dimple in the frog. Is there any question that this is a more natural trim? Here is a graphic showing the interaction of the heels with the ground. Heels strike the ground, and as the rest of the foot comes down, they're immediately lifted off of the ground. So it's just impact, lift, impact, lift. Here's a graphic showing the interaction of the toe with the ground. The toe either digs into the ground, receiving abrasion, or has to describe an arc against hard ground, which also causes abrasion. But you can see that the toe is on the ground much longer than the heels and actually has to describe an arc, which causes abrasion, as opposed to the impact experienced by the heels. Because the toe is meant to get more abrasion, the toe is what grows and needs trimming. The heels do not tend to grow unless trimmed, as they normally do not get abrasion. We need to remember that the horse is 65 million years old. It evolved specifically, and it's a marvel of engineering, and it was designed to be trimmed by the ground via simple abrasion. We must read the foot. There seems to be the perception that we can just do whatever we want to the outside of the hoof, shape it the way we want, take off what we want, and this is a huge mistake in thinking which has caused countless horses countless pain and lameness and shortened lifespans. Part of the problem has been created by x-rays. I have seen more than one vet look at an x-ray and say the toe can go back more. The vet sees empty space, and being a human does not actually engage his or her brain. It is an x-ray. Soft tissue does not show. Here is an example. The red circle marks an area that appears to be empty, nothing more than hoof wall. However, if we could see inside that foundered foot, what we would see is swollen, inflamed, and damaged lamina are filling what seems to be empty space. So by cutting back the toe, we would be doing more damage to already damaged material. Let's take a look at the insides of some feet. This foot has a coffin bone sitting on a thin sole and a very thin digital cushion and frog. Should we remove any of that sole? No. Even the bars should not be removed. On the other hand, can you see that there is too much wall at the toe? Compare it to the healthy foot to the left. This foot is severely bruised, especially at the toe. Do we really want our horses having toe-first landings? Do we really want to thin the sole? Compare the healthy sole corium on the left with the unhealthy one on the right. There's no comparison. The trim does matter because the hoof must function as nature intended. There's a healthy navicular area shown on the left and an unhealthy one on the right. This is what toe-first landings caused by incorrect trimming or shoeing leads to. Simply that, trimming incorrectly causes navicular. I cannot stress enough that how you trim is important. It is crucial to the horse's health. All trims are not equal, and we should never ever force onto the foot a shape that some person has determined it should have. The foot will tell us clearly what it wants, what it needs, and what not to do. And if we listen, we will avoid causing our horses pain, lameness, and shortened lifespans. Remember, the hoof is not a fingernail, it's not a block of wood, it's a bionic shoe. Since a horse must stand, never mind work, 23 hours a day, It's vital that his shoe fits his foot. Since we cannot really see inside the hoof, we must listen to what it tells us. And it does tell us exactly what to do. That is the beauty of the hoof-guided method.